What's it like in the world of Mike?
Let's see. I got myself a sandwich from Wawa. Do y'all have Wawa over there?
I don't know what that is.
What is Wawa?
Wawa is like a 7-Eleven, but they only have food and alcohol and tobacco.
What is a 7-Eleven?
I don't know what 7-Eleven is.
You know what a 7-Eleven is. That's where you go in Korea to get great breakfast, according to that Strictly Dumpling guy.
I don't know who that Strictly Dumpling guy. Can you rephrase this all, but in reference to the 70s British comedy duos?
Okay. All right. Yeah. No. So Wawa is like the famous British comedy duo, Cleestack and Farting Bottom.
Yeah.
And they're just they get up into their antics. But mainly it's a place where you can get like a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich just real quick.
They were so wacky. I'm remembering the famous man putting a banana in his ear sketch.
Farting Bottom's quite funny because I did actually release gas from my anus as you said that word.
Hello and welcome to the recommended. That's right. Rock me, baby. 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 That's right. Baby. 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 Baby.
This is what I keep trying to tell all the condensed matter physicists. They go, I've invented a quantum computer. Can I compile Doom on it? No. Then it's not a computer. If I can't compile Doom on it, I do not consider it a computer.
That's why it's still a developing technology and not a currently existing technology, Catsman.
My washing machine is a developing technology, and that could technically run Doom, although it doesn't. Because I have to use it to do all my washing.
But nowadays, it can't run Doom unless you have a Bethesda net account.
No!
Your fridge needs a keyboard now to be able to enter in your Bethesda net account details.
But
so
you only need to sign in
game.
once, and then you can play it offline.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about the image in my head of not a washing machine, but a dryer and just like clothes and accidentally shoes in there just kind of tumbling around. But the Doom 2016 soundtrack is playing.
Vibrate your washing machine too much.
Hello and welcome to Gentlemen Discussing Video, the only podcast that we... well, no, that's not true. We do record another podcast. With me today, Catsman.
It's Ladies Brunch Club now, Specs.
Mike.
Howdy.
Mooglepies.
Get the canon right, Specs.
And Woolyshambler.
Hello? Hello.
So today, just to give you some flavor, we're going to be talking about licensed games, Quake, we're going to do some comments. I'm going to bring back the news specifically because the comments called for it, but we're going to breeze through it, Catsman, don't worry. Yeah, we'll do that in the comments, and probably have a game, either my game or Catsman's game. Let's do comments first then. So, we've had a few comments on various different videos and things that we've done recently. The one that's specifically about bringing back the news, some idiot says, I skipped the Pikachu segment because Pokemon is for kids and I'm no longer a kid. I can watch Star Wars now. I miss the news and riddles segments. In general, what your podcast is missing is a little levity. And then later on, he goes to say, as a listener, I think the news segments are good since they keep the conversation fresh. They usually follow other longer segments dedicated to specific things I don't necessarily care about. Yada, yada, yada. Please bring back the news. Make sure it's funny and interesting. So we'll try and cut it as we usually do.
You set up an impossible expectation.
We'll do our best. I think Gamer Girl Bathwater is a good one. Other news, other comments, we've also had a comment to our Twitter from Dan Salvano, who made Doki Doki Literature Club, who cites your 5 great horror games with bad graphics as an inspiration for him making his Doki Doki Literature Club game. So
I thought that was really cool. I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
But on the other hand, that video kind of sucks. So I'm glad that it inspired him to do something good.
For 2012, it was good.
But yeah, you know what? That is kind of a good way to look at it. It was the kind of thing that came out in 2012. But that was when I had just finished college. I made that, and he says he was in college when he made it. So yeah, it's about right, isn't it?
It's not a bad video. It's just I think you just need some editing on some parts of your stuff. When's the pack guy video, by the way, Catsman?
So you remember we had this heat wave in the UK?
Yes.
Well, the pack guy video, if I were to render it, would take at least 8 hours and use 100% CPU the whole time. So I've actually not been able to render it out because it's been too hot in this country.
The last comment I've got is, well, it's a few comments combined. Nobody had a clue what we were talking about when we said dippy eggs before the dippy egg video came out.
Okay, Yanks, listening to this, dippy eggs, don't you have them? If you haven't had them, get yourself a dippy egg because they are good. It's a good breakfast food.
It's just a soft-boiled egg that you dip toast into.
It's not just a soft-boiled egg. It's more like a weird ritual.
It's just a soft-boiled egg. Don't listen to them.
It's not about the egg. It's about the fact that you soft-boil the egg, cut the top off, and then cut the toast into soldiers and dip the soldiers into the egg. The egg doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's the dressing for the dippy egg ritual that we do in order to keep the furnace burning.
We need to kill the egg goblin.
Yeah. So in a civilized country like Georgia Part 2, we'll just pour sausage gravy over the entire thing.
I miss biscuits and gravy. I think I might have to learn to make biscuits and gravy.
It's pronounced grits.
It's not pronounced that at all, and that's in the era of bodies and spaces. Like, you're canceled.
Specs, how are you doing in the era of bodies and spaces?
All right, actually, I'm employed currently.
I hate being employed.
Yeah,
it's just how the times are in these times.
Look, it's stupid. It's like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? A painter. Well, too bad. You're going to work in this building and you're going to process PPI refunds for Marks and Spencer's bank. That's what you'll do
I don't know
until
if
you
Marks
die.
and Spencer's have a bank.
Marks and Spencer's does have a bank and they do process PPI.
In defense of news, right, I'm going to read headlines to Catsman and he's going to tell me whether or not he wants to talk about them so we get through them quickly.
Let's make news good.
Let's do it. Let's make news great again. Street Fighter characters are being used in Osaka police recruitment ads.
That's not good.
Okay, we'll skip it. Here's a big news article from the last couple of days. Team Fortress 2 hat economy has crashed due to a glitch.
Good.
I mean... Yeah, we're not
good.
Nobody
good.
really plays TF2 anymore, so if we talked about this, it would just turn into reminiscing about back when TF2 was good.
Okay, well,
if you want to reminisce,
I will take a step forward on this and say that in-game economies with real money are fucking stupid.
Yep.
Yes, they are.
And they're just absolutely awful. Like, I'm not even talking about, like, you know, you go to the EA commissar to see what, like, weekly morsels you get. Like,
give me my box. Give me my box in my continuously rotating mystery box shop.
yeah, exactly. No, that's really what's on the table in the 2020 election. It's like, do you want a loot box economy or do you just want to get the game?
Thank you for reaching out to gamers. I believe you could be the world's first gamer president, Mike.
Yeah, but no, the entire, like, just sort of setup of that, who does that appeal to? Because it's entirely just outside the game, and it seems it's just for people to go like, oh, I can kind of, you know, con somebody out of this, like, rare item, and then sit on it until it becomes valuable, and then just sell it. Like, why is that fun for people?
Well, you're the psychology person, aren't you? Don't you understand why people, like, get addicted to weird stuff?
Yeah, I know, and there's implications to why people get addicted to that, but I guess, you know, folks, frankly, I thought gaming was pure. I thought gaming was sacred. I thought gaming was different.
Just don't play anything that was made after about 1990.
He's calculating the date that Doom 2 was released.
No, I'm not. There's good games after Doom 2. I'm going to go with about 2004. I think 2004 is when I'd be happy to cut it off.
Cut it at 2001 when Kojima gave us that mind bomb at the end of MGS2.
Yeah, and then 9/11 happened, and the loot box economy slowly grew out of that.
Are you saying that 9/11 caused the loot box economy?
This is nonsense. Next news, please.
Okay, so speaking of loot box economies, Grand Theft Auto's online casino has now opened. You can spend $10 to get 50,000 GTA dollars and then spend that in a casino. So you can purchase virtual currency with real currency to gamble it all away.
You know what? Grand Theft Auto at least is geared towards adults, even though adults don't necessarily play it. It's not trying to sell gambling to kids, which is a lot of loot boxes.
It's presented as a casino as well, so...
I think it's interesting because, like, you know, Dodds used to be like, oh, I'm going down the Plymouth Casino. And I was like, oh, next time I come over to your house, can I go down the Plymouth Casino with you? And he was like, no. You know what I mean? He would take a certain amount of money, and that was like his entertainment for the evening.
Fair enough.
Like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. If you understand it, I don't care. Rockstar, like, they only made money on GTA Online for like 1 million years, so I assume now they have to like recoup all the money they spent making an actual game. And they tried to put gambling in Red Dead Redemption 2, but I don't think it was popular.
Well, no, like Red Dead Online is still like niche kind of group of people. Like, it's not as popular because it's just like a less featured GTA Online. It'd be interesting if they tried to do what they do, at least in America, when various like municipalities try and open a casino, which is people get kind of weirded out by it because it's like, what's this? Like, you know, like not everybody gambles. In fact, you know, not a huge number really at all. So why are you making this? And they go, oh, well, it's to fund a school. Like, you know, we're gonna tax it in a specific way to fund education and stuff.
Rockstar don't need any extra money. They don't pay taxes, apparently. I read an article today that says that they don't pay taxes in the UK at all for any of their business stuff, and they get business subsidiaries for, like, promoting arts and entertainment in the UK. So they're terribly corrupt from the sounds of it.
That's interesting. Most video game companies don't come to the UK because they can't get a shitload of tax breaks, which is also why we've never seen a true sequel to Jet Set Willy.
That's exactly why, yes.
Yes! It was a great game for its time. Okay, you couldn't finish it when it came out.
That sounds familiar.
There was a memory corruption bug that broke the game. And the developers tried to pass it off as like, the game is so difficult, no one can finish it.
That's great.
They released a patch for it eventually, but back in those days, applying a patch was like typing the patch into your Commodore 64 out of a magazine or Spectrum on a horrible Spectrum keyboard.
Awesome.
The point that I was trying to make is there's only one other actual UK studio other than Codemasters that I know that's still operating. I mean, Rare exists, but I don't count them as a proper game studio. And that is Traveller's Tales, the people who make Lego games and who made the classic Sonic R.
Okay, here's some good news, all right? Alerts issued over Donkey Kong MDMA.
Oh,
yeah,
I did
yeah,
hear
I
about
did.
this.
Okay, so there have been pills. It's been a long-term thing. Like, I've seen references to Mario head-shaped MDMA and Mickey Mouse-shaped MDMA, but people have been dying from taking this, like, Donkey Kong and Wario-shaped MDMA that's been going around recently.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was like an official Wario product.
Why would you take Wario MDMA?
I wouldn't eat
like
anything shaped like Wario.
Yeah. They're shaped like Wario, but like, when you take the Wario MDMA, you slowly develop lockjaw and just develop that perpetual grin.
So there's
Okay, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think Wario MDMA tastes like?
Wario, of course.
It tastes like MDMA, which probably. I mean, if you're gonna say Wario tasted like something, it's like bitter, sensitive to light.
Flavor it like Wario, wouldn't they?
Garlic,
You don't flavor those things. You're just supposed to eat them.
Look, you flavor
Swallow
Wario
them.
MDMA. I'm not gonna eat Wario MDMA until they make it into a Wario-shaped gummy.
Well, in this case, it would technically be Wario like ecstasy, unless if you're doing like the Wario thing, it's gonna be cut with something.
Make sure to drink just shitloads of water after you take the Wario MDMA.
Yeah. Also,
Don't do that. Do not do that.
Also, in addition to that, any of those drugs that your friends try and give you that they tell you this is going to calm you down while you're on the Wario MDMA, don't do that. Let the Wario MDMA kind of run its course first.
I've got a report here that says the composition of the Donkey Kong MDMA contains 190 milligrams of MDMA. Over 120 milligrams is a potentially damaging dose. Individuals who have consumed over 150 milligrams have gone into a coma and died before.
Jesus.
So this is some strong-ass fucking Donkey Kong MDMA.
Can I tell you about my substance abuse story?
Go on.
So
Yes.
I went on my friend Corin's show, which is called Spice Freak. And during the filming, I got chili oil all over my hand. And at the time, I washed it off and I was like, I've washed it off now. That chili oil has been removed from my hand. But no, that wasn't the case. In fact, it penetrated deep into my hand. And it really hurt. I spent about 8 hours just with my hand in a box of iced water trying to numb it because it was so painful. The chili oil had become a part of my very being. I stayed up until about 7 o'clock in the morning and then I fell asleep with my hand in water, but I didn't piss myself, so the urban legends are false.
Well, it's got to be warm water and you got to do it while you're asleep.
No,
Is that
idea is that
confirmed?
someone puts your penis in the water and then your hand gets sweaty.
When you said I went and did like what Spice Freak, I immediately
Spice
thought,
Freak.
Cats went and smoked that cheap shit from the gas station. Cats is getting into K2.
Do we want to talk about Gamer Girl water?
Gamer Girl
Now,
Water.
Already
we
did
don't-
the Twin Peaks reference.
We don't necessarily have to talk about it. We just have to acknowledge that it happened, and it's the sort of thing that we would talk about on here. So if you listening want to like extrapolate what you think we would say, that would be really helpful to me. That would really help me out.
Let's talk about licensed video games then. So rather than like just say the ones that we think are cool and that we like, I think we should go from like the history of licensed games. So go from the start with like older generation consoles. Like I don't have any experience from before NES really of licensed games, so I'd say go from there. But if you want to throw in any Atari shit, we can talk
Obviously.
about ET.
E.T.
on
is the
Atari
legendary
is-
one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I played that in an emulation. I was like, it's not that bad. I mean, it's bad, but it's not like the worst game I've ever played.
The quality of the game is only part of why it's famous. The other part is that there's a fucking landfill full of those cartridges somewhere. Because
Well, yeah, the story is of their overconfidence in it rather than the actual quality of ET itself, I guess.
It was hyped. It was one of those games that's just hyped to oblivion and then just disappointed
But
everyone.
I mean, if you sat me down and said, do you want to play ET or Borderlands? I'd pick ET every time.
Correct.
So I guess with the NES era, the things I'd want to talk about are Capcom's entries to like NES and later on SNES. Disney games, really. Those are the first licensed games that come to mind for me. I've not really played many of them. I know that they're supposed to be good and that they're quite unique in comparison with like what we got in later generations that were just copying movies and stuff. They had unique storylines and things.
I had DuckTales on the NES when I was a kid. It was one of the first games I owned. It was really good. Really fun platformer. Recommend.
I've got it on the Game Boy. It's the same game, just ported across. Really solid platformer.
Yeah, and of course they had things like Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers and that Goof Troop co-op game as well. I think that
That
might be on
was
the
a
SNES.
Super
actually.
Nintendo.
Yeah. Various
There was-
Mickey Mouse games.
There was also Sunsoft Batman, which is amazing if you like really fucking bullshit difficult games.
It's like Ninja Gaiden, but with movement that really isn't smooth.
Yeah, it is a lot like Ninja Gaiden, actually. I think the movement is pretty good. There's wall kicks and stuff.
It's
I like
not
it.
that it's bad movement, it's just not smooth movement like Ninja Gaiden is. Like, it's a little bit more rigid.
It's got lovely visuals.
It does.
Gremlins 2, the new batch, of course, the legendary game.
Oh yeah. I mean, the movie is actually legendary in its own right.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I never played the game.
Gremlins 2, the new batch, also by Sunsoft. There you go. It was like a top-down shooter. I don't actually like it that much. I just will take any opportunity to use the phrase Gremlins 2, the new batch.
Yeah. Well, and they do have cool MIDI versions of Jerry Goldsmith's score.
There you go.
Points for that. You're thinking about the Gremlins theme right now, if you've heard it.
I can't remember it offhand.
Dun, 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 dun.
Wooly, was the Goonies 2 on NES or SNES?
Goonies 2 was
NES.
on NES. Obviously, Goonies has no sequel, so it's called Goonies 2 because it's based on the first Goonies game that didn't come out here. So we only have the Goonies 2.
Oh yeah, that's right. Japan loves the Goonies, don't they?
Yes, they do. It's actually kind of a great game. It could be called one of the early Metroidvanias. It was being developed at the same time that Metroid was, so I don't think they actually had any shared DNA.
Yeah, I've watched you play it and it looked quite cool, and it is very much a Metroidvania. And I think what I wanted to say about this era, sort of NES up to SNES, is that the games were quite unique because it seemed very much like when you got the license to do a video game like based on something, you just be like, well, we'll just make whatever we want now that we've got this cash injection, and as long as we're using it to advertise that license, we can do what we want. So we watched Arino play Mickey.
Mickey
which
Mouse
one was it?
and the Magical Quest. Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, and it looked like a cool game with some unique platforming twists, and sort of Mickey dresses up in various suits and things that you can use for different powers. And it was like you could replace Mickey Mouse with any character in that game. Like, it's not got any real Mickey Mouse DNA in it, but it's a good platformer just because Capcom made good platformers back then.
Yeah, well, if we're going to go through the entire history of licensed games, you're going to see how the way the license holders changed their kind of perspective on these games. And around the late 90s, they start to view it as, let's throw some money at this no-name studio to make a game specifically to tie in with this movie launch we're doing. When they were making DuckTales on NES, they weren't tying it in with anything specific. They just had the license and made some extra money out of making a game.
And it was a better game for it. And then you get games like, I guess, the Aladdin game and like the Lion King game on Mega Drive and stuff.
Fuck
that kind
the
of
Lion King game, dude. Fuck
I
that
have
game.
that on the Super Nintendo.
Oh, yeah, I
Lion
had
King's
that.
bad.
That fucking, I just can't wait to be king level.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Everybody
the one.
knows it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which thankfully they took that level out of Beyonce Lion King's the movie.
Oh, yeah, there is that.
I was Googling a whole bunch and they don't have that level in the movie.
Oh.
We should go watch that then. You'll get to the end of it.
These were the games that were sort of based on a movie, and while they were still kind of platformers, so they had some license to do what they want with them, they were a lot more kind of constricted, I guess. And then you got into games on the PS1 and things that were like, they were just based on the movie, so you'd be doing tasks that were based on the movie. And
Yeah.
they weren't necessarily always bad. I remember the Bugs Life game being pretty good, but you had stuff like the Harry Potter games as well coming out, and it was just trying to fit in all of the story beats that happen doesn't necessarily work well with a video game.
So I remember going over to my friend's house and playing Alien Trilogy on PlayStation. It was kind of like sort of Doom clone, and they had to take a lot of license with Alien 3.
Was the Alien games on the PS1 not the first like shooters to use dual stick controls? And people
No,
were like,
that was
"That's never
Alien
gonna work."
Resurrection later on.
That was Alien Resurrection. People were like, that's never going to work. It was also, like, a lot of it had, like, a decent just survival horror kind of elements, and so with, like, a control scheme people weren't familiar with, and, like, the game's really dark and murky, like, yeah, people were just like, it's not going to work.
To be honest, dual analog doesn't really work. The critics then were right, and the critics now are wrong.
How would you do it on a controller without a mouse?
I just wouldn't make the game.
There you go.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't make Alien 3 or Alien Resurrection.
Speaking of Alien 3, I have Alien 3 on the Super Nintendo. And
Ooh.
have any of you ever played this game?
I don't
No.
imagine
No.
it being good.
It
I have heard
is a very, very strange game where you are in, like, I don't want to call it an open world, but it's kind of non-linear, and you are tasked by a computer to do tasks in it, effectively. So it'll be, go to this particular room of the game and weld these pipes, or weld this door.
Oh my god, I fucking remember this game.
So,
Yeah.
it isn't awful, but there's fucking aliens everywhere, as opposed to Alien 3 where there's one fucking alien and a facehugger. And it's not awful. Like, I expected it to be awful, and it really wasn't. I never really played it as a kid, even though that's when I bought it. But it's not bad. Like,
Yeah, no,
considering
actually, yeah. Just pull up the screenshots for it. Like, the artwork is really good. I like just the general kind of color palette. Like, it's a kind of Metroidvania where, yeah, you get these kind of generated tasks where it's like, oh, this place is infested now and it's full of eggs. You have to like weld it off.
Yeah, and I think you either have to complete certain tasks from within those tasks that you're given, or you have to do all of them, or there's like certain specific story tasks that you do. And then you move on to a different kind of non-linear open area, and then you do it again repeatedly. And it follows kind of the same plot beats that the film does overall, but it's considerably different. But yeah, it's really interesting, like really, really non-standard licensed game.
I find it interesting when you get licensed games that are across multiple platforms. So if you come back to talking about Harry Potter, so you got the obvious Flipendo PS1 and PC Harry Potter.
Well, no, it's weird because they all have like Flipendo and stuff, but the PC one, it plays like a third-person platformer with WASD controls, but the PS1 one is like a straight rip-off of Zelda.
The Game Boy ones are JRPGs.
The Game Boy one's the JRPGs.
The Game Boy Color one is a JRPG, which was quite fun, and the Game Boy Advance one was a weird top-down, I guess Zelda-ish action game as well, that wasn't as good as the Game Boy one. So it's interesting when you get multiple licensed games at the same time for different consoles.
What's the fucking GameCube Shrek? Shrek Extra Large was the first game to use a unified lighting model. Did you know that?
That's weird. Is that the Shrek game that's based on the movie? Actually, the Shrek game that came out at the same time as the movie wasn't based on the movie. It was completely different and was just Shrek going around a load of fairy tale-like environments, completing weird tasks. And it was kind of cool. I liked it.
The developer of Shrek Extra Large, what do you think they went on to make?
Big Rigs.
They changed their name to DICE and they made Battlefield.
Whoa! There's
Okay.
a fucking change of career right there.
I'm
Sorry,
looking up
you go
Shrek
on.
games now, and there's a Shrek game on GBA called Shrek Beg for Mercy.
That's like a wrestling game, I think.
No, that's Shrek Super Slam.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, if we're in
Glad
the
we all
3D era
have
now, we
such
have
knowledge
to
of
mention
Shrek.
GoldenEye.
Yes,
Mention GoldenEye, it's required.
And GoldenEye's an interesting one because it's a game based on a film, based on a book, and then if you take
It's not based on a book.
what?
I think, GoldenEye's
It's not based on a
beyond
book.
the books.
James
Yeah,
Bond.
way
But
beyond.
it's based
okay.
on a property from a book.
Yeah, I mean, you can call it that if you want to, but like...
GoldenEye I like as a game. It's got some unique sort of, I guess, level progression for an FPS. It's not just kill everything. You've actually got to do tasks and sort of complete missions, which is cool.
I'm a big proponent of the idea that games do in fact age, and some age better than others, and GoldenEye. I appreciate like how cool it was at the time in terms of like you hadn't seen that on a console before, but it is a bad game.
Oh, it's trash to play if you try and play it now. It is
runs
trash.
badly, it controls badly.
Yeah.
Oh boy, it is
The
not
core
good.
gameplay is still really good in terms of the design, but it's so not fun to play.
They ported it, I think, to Xbox 360 a while back, and
No, I don't
No?
know if they did.
I'm sure there is at least one GoldenEye port
There's
to
a
modern
GoldenEye
system.
game, but they've never been able to release it again because they've never had the rights.
Yeah. With GoldenEye, I've not seen the film of GoldenEye, and I'm not big on Bond. Is it much the same as the film? And
Yes,
no, it very much follows it.
the levels follow the movie in a lot of detail. Like, there are some parts you have to do, specifically the train level, where you cut your way out the floor at the end, which are identical to the part in the movie.
But there are also levels that do not appear in the film whatsoever,
Yes.
or they appear but you go back to them and do second trips to them for whatever reason.
It's extended, but all the major set-piece fights and stuff are intact.
And like there's a mission in like a missile silo that just doesn't happen in the film at all. There's like big snowfield mission which doesn't happen at all, and they use that one twice in the game. And
Yeah, they do,
You never
yeah.
go there in the film at all.
Serious talk here. I hate James Bond. He's such a fuck up. Why do they keep giving him work? They're always
he-
like, oh, Bond, you're a spy, do things quietly. And then at the end of the movie, there's a big explosive finale, and everyone fucking knows who he is, and things explode, and he runs away from them.
No, even before that, because if we know anything about like secret agents and stuff in real life, they fuck up all the time. But like in the kind of quiet parts, he gets his cover blown like immediately.
Just to reiterate how bad a spy James Bond is, what is his catchphrase?
The
His
name's
name.
James Bond.
The
James
name's-
Bond.
Yeah, but
James
it's not
Bond,
his real
James
name.
Bond.
It's his code name.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
Bond's not his real name.
he's fucking just telling people his name when he's already been using that code name for God knows how many years.
Well,
That's true.
At the same time as this kind of era, we get a lot of kart racing games based on licensed properties as well. So you've got like
Garfield Kart!
Garfield!
That's
You
much
got-
later.
that's later, yeah. You got stuff like Rugrats Racing. You've got Star Wars Pod Racer.
It's a new lap record.
It's a new lap record. You got Looney Tunes Space Race was quite good. I had that on the Dreamcast.
Wacky
it's
Races
Wacky
on
Races.
the Dreamcast, which
Please.
is not a good game.
Please tell me someone here remembers Lego Racers.
I remember Lego
Yes.
Races.
Fuck yeah.
It was like Diddy Kong Racing. It had the same power-up system, but you could build your own car out of Lego. It was great. I played a lot of Lego Racers back in the day, but I had a weird graphics card, and the game used to crash sometimes during the screen that you got when you won a cup. So when I won, I would have to sit there and wait like, Jesus, Lego Racers, come on, don't crash now. Please don't crash.
So throughout the whole of the gameplay, you'd been saying, "Come on, Catsman, don't crash."
Yeah.
And then you get to the end screen, and you had to hope the game didn't.
That was a miss, Vex.
What else was good at this time period? So if we're talking PS1, we're talking N64. When did Jurassic Park Trespasser come out?
Jurassic Park Trespasser is a really good game.
Alright.
We have glossed over a few notables that I had mentioned partially. This one I don't know anything about. I haven't gotten my hands on it, but in 2002, they obtained the license from Tolstoy to make a War and Peace game.
What? How? What? What genre is it?
It's RTS.
I love it.
You can play as a bunch of different countries, apparently, and so yes, I will be looking into the War and Peace game and try and report back on that.
Oh, we can get into
Hell yeah.
RTS. I mean, Dune 2 is obviously...
My problem with that is that I don't think of it as a licensed game.
Dune 2?
What, Dune?
Yeah. Even though, I mean,
Dune
it is,
basically spawned the RTS genre, right?
but like, I think when you're licensing from a book, it's different to when you're licensing from some other property.
Well,
I feel like
there's
books-
different types of licensed games, aren't there?
yeah.
There's films tend to be crap, books tend to be all right, and then you get like expanded universe stuff, like the Star Wars video games that do their own thing and are quite interesting.
What I mean is, like, books translate into anything. Like, you can adapt a book into anything, I think.
Not according to the creator of The Witcher, but
You could adapt The Witcher into everything but a video game.
yes, according to...
Andrei Sapkowski.
Right.
Movie games typically are good if they aren't made to tie in with the release of the film.
Yeah.
If they come out way later, they're good.
All of
GoldenEye came
the-
out later. Westwood's Blade Runner adventure game came out obviously much later.
Oh, dude, Westwood Blade Runner.
Warriors on
Oh yeah,
PS2.
Warriors on the PS2 was good, yeah.
came out
Discworld.
like 30 years later.
Man,
That
yeah, we haven't
region.
even gotten into adventure games, but tons of
Yeah.
adventure games are adaptations. I mean,
Yeah.
Sam and Max is the famous one.
Mhm.
There are actually quite a lot of good early Telltale games, the Puzzle Agent, the Homestar Runner, that were good. Discworld games are not good adventure games,
No, they're not. They are
but
funny,
they are
though.
funny.
They are
so
very
I'll give
fucking
them-
funny.
I'll give them credit for that.
They were
Did-
quite early in the adventure game genre as
They
well,
weren't
weren't
that. They were late enough that people should have fucking known better.
they?
Did you ever play the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy Infocom game?
The one that you could get on the BBC for
Yeah,
a while.
yeah.
Yeah, me and a friend used to play that, and we couldn't get past the bit where you get eaten by the monster in the cave.
Everything in that game kills you. I've never finished it.
You specifically have
destroyed.
to feed a dog a sandwich at the start of the game as well, or you can't complete areas later in the game. Yeah,
Beautiful.
those are good. I think Hitchhiker's Guide makes a fairly good like adaptation to an adventure game, and it was like a text adventure game as well.
Yeah,
It wasn't even like point and click really.
Again, book to text adventure is great. I'll
Very
accept
easy.
that.
Yeah. I guess as well we've glossed over like the superhero genre, which again is easy to make an expanded universe about. You had Spider-Man games coming out from like SNES and PS1. You obviously had Marvel vs. Capcom and the Capcom sort of X-Men fighting games and arcade titles and stuff. So those were all right. You can slap
The
any
gem
license
I
on a
remember
beat 'em up,
from
really.
that was Maximum Carnage.
Is that the PS1 one? Is that the one I'm
No,
thinking
no,
of?
Super Nintendo. Though
Oh, I haven't
it's
played
like
that
main
one.
format was like arcade style, so like, you know, you still had like the system of like lives and continues.
But yeah, I mean, you can basically slap heroes in a beat 'em up in any case and make a fairly decent licensed game, can't you? I remember having a Jackie Chan Adventures beat 'em up game that was quite good on the Game Boy Advance.
There's a really good Jackie Chan game on NES you should check out.
Really?
It's called Jackie Chan Action Kung Fu.
Cool. I will give it a look.
It's just a platformer where you beat shit up, but it's pretty good.
If we're going to talk about licensed beat-em-ups, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes,
Dungeons
of
and
Mystara.
Dragons.
Yes.
Good,
That is like, I don't really like beat 'em ups, but I did have a lot of fun playing that game.
It's a good fucking game. That's why, somehow. I'm not entirely sure how they managed that one, but they did.
It was cool. You had skills depending on what class you were playing as, and like magic and stuff. And it's really difficult, but then all arcade beat 'em ups were difficult back then.
Point.
Well, yeah, there was the Simpsons one that
It was a weird ass game. It had like that early Simpsons aesthetic where they weren't sure what it was supposed to be.
And there was Simpsons wrestling as well.
Yeah,
right?
I have
Oh, that
Simpsons
game
Wrestling on the
sucks.
PlayStation 1. It's fucking awful, but it's funny.
Thinking about GameCube PS2 era, I think that's when we really get into the you will do what happens in the movie and it will be by the numbers and boring and there won't be any interesting gameplay. Am I right in
And the
thinking
people
that?
won't be voiced by their actors.
Yes.
Just by
Well, no,
I mean,
it
that's
was
not
like
always
the
the
people
case.
won't be voiced by their actors because it's in their contract that we can't use their image without paying them a certain amount of money. So you can't like make the character in the game look too much like the actor, or we'll have to pay them. And like, it just got to the point of like ridiculousness. There was one good game of that era, though, Chronicles of Riddick.
That's
Yes.
true.
But that's because Vin Diesel specifically got together his own fucking development team to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And
Like, he wanted to make sure the game was not shit.
Thanks, Vin.
it's not
Yeah.
based on the film either, is it? It takes place before the film happens, right? It's
I've not seen the movie.
I think it takes place before Pitch Black. I might be wrong about that, but it's its own chapter in the Chronicles of Riddick.
So, if we talk about what licensed games are like now, I don't have a good view on it, really. Are movie tie-ins dead?
There's sort
They
of
kind of are, yeah.
some licensed
Yeah.
games are coming back just because it's harder for like game developers to finance original projects. So they're not coming back for a good time. But obviously, like, there's finally going to be a ton of Star Wars games, which will probably suck. And like superhero licenses are coming back as well.
Well, we've got Marvel's Avengers being made
Yeah.
by Crystal Dynamics, isn't it? Square Enix are doing Marvel's Avengers.
Crystal Dynamics,
the-
the legendary studio behind Gex 3, Enter the Gecko.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
They
so
also
games
did the
are-
Tomb Raider reboot, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
games aren't good. Those games are not good.
Yeah, but Gex 3.
I will say, I will stand for one of them, which was Tomb Raider Anniversary. Was
Yep, that's the one I was thinking of just now, though.
I agree.
It's more cohesive than the original Tomb Raider.
Oh, dude, the original Tomb Raider is not good. MD's
Yeah.
not here, I can say that, right?
Yeah,
He's not here right now. He'll just
Okay.
kill you later, it's fine.
He will. He will.
I've played like almost every Tomb Raider, and yeah, the original Tomb Raider is.
It's hard to love.
It's got some issues.
So, yeah, like movie tie-ins are kind of dead, but series tie-ins are making either a comeback or just a come, really. Because you got stuff like Stranger Things Season 3 has just had a mobile game tie-in. I think mobile games are where it's
Yeah,
big. You've got Harry
that's
Potter.
really how they
Fucking
do it.
But you've got all the Telltale stuff as well. You've got like The Walking Dead. They did the Batman thing. They did
They're
Wolf
not
Among
around
Us, which is
anymore,
based on a comic. Well, they're
Can't
dead now.
talk
but
about
that's
them like
recent.
they're current.
They're recent. But yeah, what else? Oh, The Mummy Demastered. Have you heard of that?
The Mummy
No.
Yeah,
Demastered.
yeah, nice marketing ploy for a movie nobody gave a shit about.
Yeah, so the Tom Cruise Mummy movie got a game made by Way Forward, who make the Shantae games, and it's kind of
Weird.
like a Dark Soulsy Metroidvania game where you play as a marine and you go around killing
You're
undead.
just throwing words at me here. It's like the Dark Souls of Metroidvania, and it's got like an emergent world that you can explore and survive.
But what I'm trying to say is I think we're getting games based on licenses that are doing their own thing again rather than just trying to be the movie. and
That,
stuff.
I mean, that's good, don't get me wrong, but I keep seeing adverts for Harry Potter Wizards Unite on buses,
Yeah.
and I still don't know what it is.
It's Pokemon Go, but you collect memories of Harry Potter events and
What?
spells.
You
and
Wow,
stuff.
collect
really?
memories of Harry Potter events?
Yeah, so I was talking to a friend about this because I haven't played it, and she said things are going bad in the Muggle world, and like wizardy stuff is popping up, and you are on a quest to remove those things. So you are collecting things that appear, which might be monsters from Harry Potter, or you might be collecting spells, or you might be collecting things like memories of Harry Potter. I assume because you're collecting the memories when people have seen Harry Potter in real world. So you're stealing those memories away from them so they forget.
I just fucking like somebody sees Harry Potter in pajamas in a corner shop at 9 o'clock in the morning buying I don't know, what would Harry Potter
Twix.
buy? Buying a Twix. And I have to go over there and use my ectoplasm to wipe their memories.
Yes. You could do the same with the Men in Black game, I think. It'd make more sense than that. You just go around flashing people.
Don't think it makes sense in either of them. You remember that game where Hugo the Troll went skateboarding with Cristiano Ronaldo?
Let's not talk about Hugo the Troll.
Why do
I
you
don't,
hate
I
Hugo
don't
the
remember.
Troll,
I don't
Hugo?
remember that game at all.
Let's not talk about Hugo.
Hugo's a
let's not.
fun-loving troll.
I'm putting a ban on Hugo the Troll
Thank
from
fuck.
here on Catsman. Thank you.
Yeah,
No!
Hugo the Troll
No, Mike, it's
is
banned.
not a fucking thing. When people say Hugo, they're talking about the charming little CGI movie with Sacha Baron Cohen.
All right, let's talk about our favorite licensed games then, and maybe anything that we've missed that we want to have a chat about. So, anyone got favorites?
Vampires: The Masquerade. Bloodlines is, internet infamous for, being really replayable, very detailed, and doing a good job of explaining the world.
I don't know if I would call like tabletop RPG based games
There were
tie-in
books.
I
games.
think they're technically licensed games.
What, is
Technically,
Baldur's
yeah.
Gate a
Like,
licensed-
White Wolf,
Yeah, Baldur's Gate.
White Wolf has been infamous in terms of trying to protect that license, and just, within the past few years, Paradox was able to actually get it, because actually, I believe it was CD Projekt was trying to do a World of Darkness MMO, and it just never kind of took shape and got off the ground. And that's because that existed in limbo for so long. White Wolf was really hesitant about handing out the license to it.
And
Well done,
apparently, the Divinity Original Sin guys have been asking for the license for Baldur's Gate for years, and
Yep.
they've just been handed it, so they're going to make a Baldur's Gate game.
Well, my favorite then is Planescape Torment.
There you go.
Yeah, no. It's
Planescape Torrent.
And of course, we've got other things based on tabletop licenses like Shadowrun. There's a few games of that. And
fuck
Cyberpunk.
Shadowrun. Shadowrun
I mean, I'm not
was
saying it's good. I'm just saying
Some
it's
guy's
there.
idea was like, oh, what if I mix the stupidest cliches from Cyberpunk with the stupidest cliches from fantasy? And I
I
just
hate that it's half
Yeah,
fantasy.
and then
Why isn't it
let's
just
make it
Cyberpunk?
into a movie starring Will Smith.
Which movie are we talking about here?
Right.
Oh God.
I liked Bright.
No, you
Oh,
did. For
yes, I
fuck's
did.
sake, Specs. You don't mean that.
And I do. I liked that.
Alright,
It
we're
wasn't
moving on.
good, but I liked it.
We're moving
okay?
on.
It wasn't good.
What the fuck does that mean?
It means
No, there are things that aren't good. I like Trespasser, even though it's shit.
in terms of not necessarily games I like, but I feel like I classify a lot of platforming games under the SpongeBob action platformer genre. I feel like Psychonauts fits that genre because it plays very similarly to like.
Say Psychonauts is a licensed SpongeBob
No,
game.
I'm not saying it's a licensed SpongeBob game. I'm saying it plays like the licensed SpongeBob games.
That's
in
just
the...
a way to say it's a bit jank, really.
I kind of like the Battle for the Bikini Bottom was all right. That's getting a HD remaster as well,
Yeah.
which is weird.
Happy Man, you're obligated to say 50 Cent Blood on the Sand.
Oh, I
Oh.
forgot about 50 Cent Blood on the Sand.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
That's fun, yeah.
Oh, it's such a great game.
That's not,
It's
a good
really
game,
great game,
but it's
fun.
a game I like.
Yeah, pop off, fucker. So my one's not available to buy anymore.
Oh, it's Scott Pilgrim,
Scott
isn't
Pilgrim.
it?
It's Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, that's good, actually. We should play that. I've got that on my PS3 emulator. We could
Fun game.
play it over Parsec.
I'm just going to go ahead and pick the thing that you knew I would pick, which is fucking DuckTales.
Yep. I was gonna say a Disney Capcom game of some kind.
The
but I knew you
remaster
would
is
anyway.
is really good.
I still haven't played it.
It's got 2 new levels, and it's got a story voiced by the extremely old voice actors
Yeah.
from the DuckTales cartoon.
Oh yeah, he was like 80 when he re-recorded.
Oh, he was older than that.
wasn't he?
He's like he was in like
100.
his 90s or something. Way Forward says he just came in and like nailed all the lines on the first read through, even though he was like 90.
I haven't played the Dark Forces series, but I really like Jedi Knight, Star Wars Jedi Knight, mostly Training Academy, which I played.
A game
Yeah, those were good.
that struck a young, prepubescent or pubescent Mike at a certain time, where first time male shirtlessness in a like live action cutscene that I can remember. When he's having the dream and his dad talks to him when he's like injured after the first few levels on Nar Shaddaa.
I had all of the Star Wars. No, I didn't have all the stars, but I had like one from every Star Wars series. I had one of the Jedi Knight games. I had one of the X-Wing games, which is also really good. And there was another series that they did with
Rogue
Star Wars.
Squadron was really
Rogue
good.
Squadron. Oh man,
That was some GameCube.
Was the Force
great.
Unleashed good?
It was an arcadey kind of fun kind of game. It's a really weird kind of dumb idea within Star Wars, because there was a million ways they could have sort of justified why he has like such absurd force powers, and all of them were fucking dumb. They didn't actually like flesh that out.
I played the whole game, but I was a teenager, so I don't remember if it was good or not. All I
I
remember pulling down the Star Destroyer.
Yeah, it was very average. It was like one of those games that should get like 7s across the board from reviewers, It was like, yeah, it's alright.
Really
it's
good
not
physics
shit.
engine, though.
Yeah, it did have a really good destruction and physics engine, which was kind of the selling point. They almost sold it on that, didn't they?
I want to randomly mention the game A Bug's Life for PlayStation.
I said earlier I liked that. That's a good game, actually.
It was a weird concept. The game was built around this mechanic where you collected seeds and then you planted them and they grew into different plants, and the plants allowed you to reach different areas.
And
It's a
you
fun
could use them as
mechanic.
weapons as well, right? And they had different properties depending on which seed it was.
It wasn't the best game, but it's like rare to see like slightly creative game design in a licensed game.
Grain.
Would you say the game is better than the movie?
Yes, but not better than Ants.
Bug's Life is better than Ants.
Yeah, I'm messing with you.
Oh.
I'm I don't really like Ants. Don't confuse that.
Lord of the Rings is a big one we haven't talked much about as well, because you've got expanded universe stuff based on the books. You've got things like Battle for Middle-earth, and there's that weird one from the GameCube era it's like it plays exactly like Final Fantasy X.
Wait, really?
Third Age. Yeah, Third Age. Lord of the Rings, the Third Age.
Yeah.
It's got a combat system that is ripped entirely off Final Fantasy X, but you play as...
No name, like NPC people.
Yeah, you're basically following the Fellowship through the films, but like you get to everything just after they got there. So you do stuff like fight the Balrog just after they've like left the mines and things.
Speaking of Lord of the Rings, though, did anybody else play the Battle for Middle-earth games?
Again, something
Yes,
I've heard
I
of
have.
from my friends, but I'm not big into RTS
I played
or
both of them.
strategy
I
games.
enjoyed both of them as well.
Yeah. I mean, no, they're like not solidly like balanced as far as like RTS goes.
Oh, no.
But yeah, just some great kind of presentation and like recreation of the movie things, and some of the best unit responses in like any RTS. In the second one, if you play as the goblins, like they really capture the nastiness of them.
I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but Shadow of Mordor is the best Assassin's Creed game ever made.
Yeah,
I quite like that.
Shadow of Mordor, though, I thought was Batman's.
the Batman games tend to be quite good, and the Arkham series is good of Batman games. And
Is the Arkham series one of those series that's just steadily declined in quality?
I
I don't think so necessarily.
City was better than Asylum in some ways, and then they made Origins, which I think most people said was bad, and then Rocksteady didn't make Origins, but they made the third one,
They made
Arkham
Knight.
Knight,
Yes.
which again has some things that are better than City and some things that are worse.
I didn't play Arkham Knight. I felt like the end to Arkham City was just so solid that like I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm like wrapped up there. The Mark Hamill kind of credits voice message that he leaves is like, it's like, yeah, that's a really solid ending. I don't even need to go anywhere from here.
They've got a different villain and stuff, so.
You telling me a superhero series didn't know when to end things?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
wow.
specifically are you referring to there, Happy Man?
Well, I don't know.
They just
I don't
go on and
know.
on
You know
forever.
what? You know what? We don't have another Justice League movie. So, yeah, they did know when to
That's
end it.
because it bombed fucking hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike.
So they knew when to end it.
Which is right after it
No,
began.
they were told when to end it. That's not the same thing.
Do we have any closing thoughts on licensed games? Because I feel like we're petering out.
Not really, no.
I wish there was a good John Wick game, but that won't happen now.
There is
Yeah,
a John
yeah.
Wick game, isn't there?
There is?
I think it's a
there's-
mobile game.
Yeah, that's not what I'm
Yeah.
fucking talking about.
Yeah.
It's
No,
good
like a
one.
Max Payne style kind of thing. But, like, fucking Remedy will forever be stuck in, like, the weird fucking Microsoft Black Lodge where they're making games that nobody ever hears about.
Nobody's playing.
nobody knows what the fuck they are, but like, yeah, some weird fucking slush fund money goes to fund them from like the Sultan of Brunei.
I guess my closing thought is I think licensed games are only good, well, are mostly better, I suppose, when they are not based on an actual storyline and they do their own thing. Like, at least you're getting new content, even if the gameplay's not great, is what I'd say.
Or alternatively, they're good if they're a bad representation of the thing that they're supposed to be about.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Harry Potter games had lots of funny lines in them just because they sounded ridiculous.
And some of the Harry Potter games are all right. They got worse as they went on because they all just devolved into some sort of third-person
Yeah,
action. Like
It was
Wasn't
because EA started developing them in-house.
The last one was a Gears of War clone, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah,
It was
really
the Gears
strange
of War.
choice.
But no, like the first three they farmed out, and then EA was like, I'm going to stop subcontracting this and develop it in-house so that it'll be good. And it was shit from then on.
Yo, Quidditch World Cup was good though.
Quidditch is a stupid sport.
It is.
And
Yeah,
J.K.
yeah, it
Rowling,
is.
if there's one thing J.K. Rowling can do on Twitter that will get me on her side, it's apologize for Quidditch.
In conclusion, licensed games are a land of contrasts.
Thanks for the end of your
Yeah.
middle school book report, Mike. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's good.
There's a. I won't ruminate on this, but I just looked it up and I have to bring it up. Weirdest licensed game I think I've ever seen. It's from 1998. It's based on War of the Worlds. Not H.G. Wells' novel, not the Tom Cruise film, but the 1970s musical.
What?
There's a strategy game based on it.
What?
What?
Of War of the Worlds. Yeah, it's probably the best musical or best rock opera ever made. It's the War of the World version. There's a fucking game based on it. I know nothing about it. I'm gonna try to look up some footage. Maybe it's worth playing for a laugh. Play it.
While he looks that up, there is a licensed game of War Games, the movie, for the PlayStation.
Oh, that's weird.
And it's actually pretty fun. It's kind of like a pseudo RTS style game, I guess, where you've got like the machine that's kind of taken over versus like the US Army who are left behind. And it's mission based and it's actually pretty fun.
I mean, if you've ever played DEF CON, that was basically anything I would want out of a movie adaptation of War Games.
Wait. Hold on. I
Wait.
just found something. So, you remember the film Battleship?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God,
Oh
I know
my
this.
god.
There is a 2012 video game released for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 created by Double Helix Games that is an adaptation of the film that is the adaptation of the board game.
Help.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
there was a Street Fighter, the movie, the game as well.
Yes.
And it's not awful,
by the
though.
way, same developers as Silent Hill Homecoming.
you know what we've completely glossed over as well? Tom Clancy.
Tom Clancy.
I'm not counting that.
No, they are absolutely
They're
fucking based on his
licensed.
shit.
You
though.
can't license something from Tom Clancy after he's dead. We're doing Riddles of the Spink.
We're doing Riddles of the Spink.
Do we have to be on teams, or are we all
We
individual?
do have to be on teams, yeah. I'm going to put you on teams. Mike and Moogle are going to be on one team because
Yeah.
they both start with an M. So they're going to be
Yes.
Team M, and Wooly and Catsman are going to be on another team.
And we're
You
Team
and me,
WC.
Team Water Closet, yeah. We're going to start off with the round that is called Finish Me Off. So
And also answer the question.
in this round, I will give you the first part of a memorable video game quote, and then you will give me the second part of said quote, and if you get it right, then you get a Spoint. I will need everyone to buzz in with an Octothorpe. There will not be any conferring, but anyone from each team can answer. So does everyone remember what an Octothorpe is?
Yeah, it's that hashtag. It's how I cancel
Yes.
people in my life.
Not a
fake-ass bitches.
hashtag. Not a hashtag.
It's an octagon.
It's
thought.
yeah, but I'm with Mr. Moogle.
Yes, you're
Yes.
with Moogle. So either of you can answer for your team. So just to give an example, since Mike's not played before, if I were to say, what is a man, you would say...
A miserable pile of secrets.
There you go.
But I
That's
would buzz in first.
You would buzz in, of course, yeah. So, first one, fingers on buzzards, everyone. Sit your ass down in that chair and drink.
Your goddamn tea.
Correct.
Yes.
Sid
nice.
from Final Fantasy VII, so that's a point for Wooly. Everybody cheater.
Next time I cheat.
Next time I cheat, Waluigi from Mario Kart Wii, I'll give it to you. A man chooses. Moogle.
A slave obeys.
Correct, that's Bioshock. Obey Wario.
Destroy.
Destroy Mario.
That's right, Wooly got there first. Link, you can do it. Save the princess. Zelda is your... That's Wooly.
Wait, what? That's the end of the sentence.
Correct.
Dot,
Point.
dot. Is that what you want?
That is it, yeah. Dot. Does anyone know what the original sentence is in Japanese and therefore why it's wrong in English? I'll give you an extra point if you can give me a convincing answer to this, because I looked it up earlier.
Is it like Zelda's your only hope?
No, it's actually almost exactly the same thing. It still just trails off.
Okay.
It's like it's nothing. It's just the princesses.
The princess is. Yeah.
The
okay.
princesses, yeah. Okay, so that's it for Finish Me Off. I've got a few different rounds this time, so we're going to be trialing some things. The next round is called Who Said That? Again, you're going to be buzzing in for this round. I'm going to give you a quote from a video game developer, and you're going to tell me who it was who said it, okay? So, first one. If you just continue to press the same button, like XXX, YYY, and XX and YYY again, you will be sucked. That
what's that motherfucker's name?
Mo-
Tak
no, I think
Fuji.
Moogle got there first, actually. But,
I'm gonna say Itagaki.
well, you're wrong.
Oh.
I'll give it to Wooly anyway, because he buzzed in after you next. It is Tak Fuji from Konami.
Oh, it's Takfuji.
Absolute
love Tak.
legend.
Tak
He's
is
good.
great. He's got a good Twitter as well. Today, if you don't understand the controller, you're not able to enjoy video games. We expect the Revolution controller to become the standard in video games. That's Moogle first.
I'm gonna go with Iwata.
It was Satoru Iwata, yeah. You will be ashamed of your words and deeds. Moogle.
Hideo Kojima.
Yeah.
Correct, Hideous Kojimbo. Who was he talking about?
Quiet.
He was talking about Quiet. Were you ashamed of your words and deeds?
I had no actions to be ashamed of.
I was ashamed, but not for the reasons he wanted.
Ashamed on his behalf.
Well, the PSP hasn't arrived in Europe yet. You know what? That's Sony's issue, not my problem. Moogle.
I'm gonna go with Reggie.
That is Reggie Filzime.
Why he was talking about Europe, I'm not sure, but it was Reggie.
Someone asked him about the PSP not being out in Europe yet, and he said, not my problem.
There's a nice history of Sega and Nintendo shitting on Sony for availability issues. Sega took a full-page ad out in several magazines with like a kid just blowing a raspberry at them and saying, "Our condolences for your availability issues for the PS2." And
Yeah.
then just the Dreamcast logo underneath.
And the
it.
Dreamcast still ate shit.
Yes.
Cats are interesting. They're kind of like girls.
Yeah, we
Okay,
know
I
this
can
one.
stop there. Mike.
Yes, that was Miyamoto, right?
That was Miyamoto. The full quote is, they're kind of like girls. If they come and talk to you, it's great. If you go and talk to them, sometimes it doesn't turn out so well. Shiggy
Hell
and Diggy.
yes.
Bless
Okay,
you, Miyamoto.
next one.
Miyamoto.
Hello, Mortal.
Of course, it is very difficult to make the game. That is Masuda, Junichi Masuda of Pokemon. Of course, it is very difficult to make the game, so I hope people don't get their expectations up too high.
Legendary inspirational quote there. No, it is inspirational, because like if they can sell so many Pokemon games, it gives me hope, doesn't it?
That you,
does.
without making any effort whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. There is an acorn, and it is a golden acorn. We're taking acorns to the next level. That
Suda
is
51.
Wooly. No, it's not Suda. Moog, you're on the opposite team, so you can go.
Is it going to be Molyneux?
It is. It's Peter Molyneux talking about Fable 2, I
Yes.
think. I think that's from Fable 2. Because in the original Fable, he talked about an acorn growing into an oak tree. In the next one, he talked about a golden acorn. To make up for the fact that he lied so much about the first one.
Fucking Molyneux.
Next one. Focus is a matter of deciding what things you are not going to do.
Ooh.
John Carmack.
Wooly, yes, it is John
Yeah.
Carmack.
Oh my god! That was a guess! That was a pure guess!
Yeah, I was going to think John Carmack.
I
was
thought
like,
you guys might have to guess that one. I thought Catsman might get it, actually.
I was
but-
also thinking, if it's Carmack, Catsman would have got it, but
It
apparently
sounded like
he
a
just doesn't care.
Carmackism, but I've not. I only read Masters of Doom. If you had to write down everything John Carmack had said, you'd be there for ages.
That's true. Last one. Have you ever heard of cam girl pornography, Moogle?
Randy fucking Pitchford.
Randy Pitchford, that's
Randy
correct.
Bobandy, as he shouted.
Knew Randy was gonna be in there. You talk about him so much.
Have you ever heard about
I'm
cam
Randy's
girl
biggest fan. What are you talking about?
pornography?
Randy's
I
family.
was a consumer of this content.
I share his interest in magic tricks.
So
Yeah, watch this fucking budget disappear.
we've got 7 points for Moogle, 1 point for Mike, and 6 points for Wooly. So it's Moogle's team
Whoa.
on 8 and Wooly's team on 6 at the moment.
I believe in us, Mike. I believe in us.
We're going to do a musical interlude next, so I'm going to mouth trumpet a song from a video game.
All right, hold on.
no.
All right. I gotta
love
really
these
focus
rounds.
on
These
this.
are my favorites.
Okay, so you don't have to buzz in. You just shout,
just
and I
yell,
will
yeah.
stop when someone gets the right answer.
Okay.
You just have to tell me the game it's from, but if you want to be more specific, then feel free. Okay. Let me just rev up the pipes. Hold on. Woo! Okay, you guys ready?
That's Metroid.
Yes, it is. That is.
That's
That
the
is.
Quake
Yeah,
theme.
yeah.
That is the
Quake
Quake theme from Metroid, also known as Brinstar
Wasn't
Depths.
the fucking theme from Metroid?
Didn't sound like it at all.
It did. Now, retrospectively, I hear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's fine. You'll hear another musical interlude later, but now we're on to a new segment that I have come up with. I'm going to describe a video game based on its Wikipedia article. Again, you don't need to buzz for this one. You can just shout out, and whoever gets it first wins. I'm going to limit you all to 3 guesses each,
Okay.
though, so Catsman doesn't keep saying fucking Earthworm Jim every 2
Earthworm
seconds.
Jim!
It's
See,
never
man!
going to be Earthworm Jim.
One
So-
day it will.
There's 3. I'll start you with the first one. Game titled Worst Game Title on the first North American release is an action game developed by Smilebit and published by Sega for the Dreamcast in 2000. The player controls one of a gang of youths who skates the
Jet
streets
Set
of a
Radio.
Set Radio.
Yes, Moogle got there first.
I got there first.
Moogle started saying
Let
it
the
before you did.
recording speak for it.
Jet Set Radio was called Jet Grind Radio in North America, which is why I said worst game title.
Ooh, that is worse.
That
Why
is
did you do
worse.
that?
I don't know why they did that.
Because licensing. Somebody had the rights to something called
What,
Jet
like a
Set
Jet
Radio,
Set Radio, okay.
in the US only, and they had to change it.
It's like Star Fox and Starwing, but
Yes.
like
Yeah.
reversed. Lilac Wars.
Abolish trademarks.
Next one. Game is a platform game that incorporates various
Earthworm
adventure.
Jim.
No, Catsman. Various adventure elements. The player controls the main character in a third-person, three-dimensional
Oh, fuck,
view.
another world.
No, it's not. That.
Psychonauts.
It is Psychonauts.
Yeah. Well done.
Good. You didn't even have to get to the bit where I said about them going to camp, so that's good.
Well, that would have given it away
That
somewhere
would have
else.
given it away. Okay, last one. The story follows character, an orphan from the fictional Granite Orphanage in Ronsadalen, Norway. She and the other orphan children are adopted in
my God,
September
what's this one called?
1995 by a wealthy recluse who lives in a
Clock
mansion.
Tower.
I was going to say,
Clock Tower,
yeah, Clock
there you
Tower.
go. It's good that Kat's got that because he was the only person who didn't watch Clock
Yeah, I
Tower
know.
be played last
I was
night
like,
when we were
Granite
watching
Orphanage,
it.
where did I hit Clock Tower? And then he
I
said it. And I was like,
love Clock
okay.
Tower, dude.
Yeah, Clock Tower with a scary scissor man. So that's it for. I need a name for that segment.
Call it
Oh,
Wiki
God
Wiki
damn it.
Wild
All right.
Wild West.
What you should do is call
Wiki
it...
Wiki Wild Wild West is good. I like that.
Oh, no.
What were you going to
sti-
call it?
Earthworm Jim segment.
No. Okay. You guys ready for the next musical interlude?
Yep. Oh my fucking god, it's Earthbound! It's
Yes,
Earthbound.
it
Own
is. It's Earthbound. It's on it.
We gotta run you through like a fucking auto tuner so we can get to the pitch that you're trying to convey.
I thought that it
Mike,
would be something
you know
like that.
On It, right? You've heard the On It theme from Earthbound.
No, I don't.
I don't.
Okay,
For my part, I don't.
I've beaten Earthbound multiple times, and I know that theme very well. I've probably heard that theme at least 20 or 30 times. That was not On It. That was not even slightly. It's like the residue of the On It theme if you'd thrown it at a wall.
Well, it does make it harder to guess.
That is true.
The next one is a segment that I'm titling Who's That Review, but we can change it if we come up with something better. I am going to read you a Steam review for a recently released game, and you have to tell me which game it is. Now, this one's going to be a bit more difficult, so I'm going to go in order between your teams. So who's in the lead at the moment? Moogle's team's in the lead, so Wooly's team is going to go first. When it's your turn, you can either ask for more information about the game, or you can tell me what you think the game is. Okay? So that way we don't just get stuck with nobody knowing what it is. All right? So you can either spend your turn on asking me a question, like 20 questions, so it'll be a yes or no answer, or telling me what you think the game is.
Right, I
okay?
get you.
Wooly, you can start on this one. Let me read you the review, and then you can ask or tell. I absolutely love this game, but I've put a red thumb on this because Capcom is enforcing de novo and it eats about 20 FPS away. There were a clean EXE out, but without the de novo making me play this game in good conditions, but they enforced an update making
Monster
it
Hunter
mandatory
World.
again. It's not Monster Hunter
No!
World, Moogle.
I thought
It
we were going to
is Devil May Cry
confer.
5.
It's Devil May Cry 5.
Yes, it is Devil May Cry 5.
I thought we were going to confer.
No,
sorry.
you're gonna get a turn each back and forth. I've
Oh,
decided we could
right,
change
okay.
it to conferring if you
No,
think it'll work
conferring
better
is
then.
worse.
When
Okay.
you said de novo, initially I thought it's going to be Megan Man, and then it
Megan
wasn't
Man.
Megan Man.
We'll go to Wooly again for the next one because you're still behind. So your team, but we'll go Cats. You'll get the first ask or tell this time. Okay. This is a
Right.
bit of a longer one, so it may take me some time to read. After 3.2 hours, I can only quote another player here. Why add RPG looter shooter mechanics to an excellent FPS game? I expected game, but I got Nazi Borderlands instead. For solo players, this is not the game you're looking for.
Either Youngblood or 2.
It's Wolfenstein Youngblood, the new
There you go.
one. So that's the point for
They
you.
put looty shooty in it? Wow.
Apparently, it's an RPG with looty shooty elements
Well,
now.
That's
fuck
not
them.
good.
Okay. Wooly's team, I'll give you this one as well to start off with. This game had brown walls before Call of Duty. This game had map design before Counter-Strike. This game had Space Marines before Halo. This game had zombies before 90% of the mature rated game population. This game had a nail gun before nothing else, since no other game
come
has a
on.
nail gun. Yes, it's Quake. Okay. Now, I'm going to flip a coin for who gets the last starting, because it is the last question, and you're tied neck and neck, actually, now. I think, if I'm counting correctly, 11 to 11.
okay.
Yeah,
I love
okay.
necks.
All right, so I will say that Team Wooly and Cats gets the Tesco side of my coin. Okay, I'm going to flip it.
You're not supposed to take those coins away, Specs.
It has landed on the non-Tesco side of the coin, so that
Right.
means Moogle gets the first guess on this one. It's short and sweet. 10 out of 10 thick thighs.
Thick thighs. Let's go with Near Automata.
Correct.
Yeah!
Yeah.
Get in.
I knew you could do it, yo.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have got it because you don't play Japanese video games.
Yeah, no, because yeah, it's not for bare Americans.
You're not attracted to children with big thighs. I mean, understandable.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
Or Tubi's big butt.
Okay, so the scores at the end were Moogle and Mike's team, or Team M as I like to call them, 12 points, or Spoints as I like to call them, and Willie and Katz's team had 11 Spoints, making Team M the victors. Team M, you each get 2 Spoints. These are
Yes.
transferable tradable Spoints. Now, what a tradable Spoint does is, for each tradable Spoint, you can get me to read one line of dialogue in any voice you want me to approximate. Moogle has not yet cashed in
I'm
any
up
of
to
his
7
Spoints.
points.
You got to keep an eye on your own
I'm
Spoints,
keeping an eye on my
because I'm
balance.
not keeping an eye on them. So the Spoints economy is
Oh
just
shit!
fast
Shit!
and loose.
I've got something I want you to read.
Yep.
Okay. Specs, what voices do you have?
I've got a repertoire of voices. I'm quite good at doing Mickey Mouse. I can do anime teenager. I can do a bad Scottish accent, an Irish accent. I can do quite a good old-timey sort of American radio voice.
His old radio announcer
Actually,
voice is his best one.
Yeah, the radio voice is good, actually.
All right.
I can do racist Japanese.
Maybe, if you could just read this for me.
Okay, you would have to spend a lot of spoints on that. I'll do the first 2 lines for you. To be fair, if you have a very high mysticism stat to understand the Mysterium Xerxes, the metaphors are extremely subtle, and without a solid grasp of the 7 fights of the Aldugdiga, most of the commentary will go over a typical initiate's head. That's as much as you'll get for 2 points.
What were you going to do it in the radio voice?
Yeah,
Sorry, I can do it in the radio voice if you want.
Yeah, so yeah, you can keep going.
Okay. Well, I can do the next part if you want. There's also Dragon's Padamaic outlook, which is deftly woven into the current incarnation. His personal philosophy draws heavily from within the greedy man, for instance. The mythic Dawn understands the stuff. They have the intellectual capacity to truly appreciate the depths of these commentaries.
That is how old school people talk.
To realize that they're not just revolutionary. They say something deep about the Kalpus. That's about as well as I can do. Sorry, that's a hard
very
sentence
difficult to read.
Anyway,
Why do you just have this on hand, Mike?
Reasons.
You make friends with some people. You get invited to weirder and weirder smaller Facebook groups that were like splinters of the Facebook groups. Let's see. It was from a leftist Elder Scrolls meme and discourse group.
Wow, that's specific.
Yeah,
Impressive.
I like how specific that is.
Let's talk about Doom.
Which Doom?
And then talk about Quake.
Can we talk
That's
about
what I
Quake?
meant. Quake. Let's talk about Quake.
Let's talk about Bethesda net accounts.
So, you're permitted, right? So I've spent about 10 years shit talking every FPS that ever came out, saying it's not as good as Quake. So now, if you've been annoyed by that, you can now tell me everything that's wrong with Quake.
Okay.
Let's talk about the fucking spawn enemies.
Let's.
Let's talk about them, Catsman.
Yeah, they're
Spawn
pretty
enemies
awful.
are just mean-spirited and bad. But I'm not accepting that you don't like them because I told you to turn the difficulty down and you didn't.
Oh, if you don't like the game, you should just play it on easy mode.
No, because
makes
there's
it more
a
fun
big
when you don't
difficulty spike in the game, and it's it's
The
just,
big difficulty
I'm going to
is
play
called.
Doom 2, and I'm going to the difficulty down whenever I die. Ooh.
Why do I have like Wan's voice?
That's just how we do voices that we disagree with nowadays.
Okay.
The problem with the spawn enemies is the difficulty spike is just here's 20 spawns in this level. Have fun, and it's like no, that's
Also,
not
they
fun.
don't. They just don't fucking die.
If you haven't played Quake, there is an enemy called the Spawn, and it's basically a blob, and when it sees you, it lunges at you, and if it misses, then it bounces around the level at high speed, and it bounces so fast that it's really hard to hit, but they don't introduce them until near the very end of the game.
They're
And,
only in one chapter, right at the end.
One level has like 5 of them in, and they're kind of cool because it's like you see a spawn, you go, oh shit, and then you blow it up. But then the next level has like 50 of them in it.
Yes. And they all follow you. Like, they have perfect pathfinding to just get to you if you don't kill them. So if you leave any of them alive, they will find you and they will do half of your health's worth of damage when they touch you. So they're awful. And I think changing it to easy mode cuts the amount in that level by half, and they only do half damage. So I can see why you'd have more fun if you played it on easy mode for that level, but I don't want to be flip-flopping difficulty on a game like whenever I need to because I'm finding it too hard. I want a consistent kind of ramp up of difficulty, Cats.
I know it's like bad to feel like you're abusing the game. Like, for example, if you started quick saving in levels partway through, but I think if you know where to change the difficulty, then I don't see a problem with it.
I think it's just bad design on the part of the developers. It's just bad design.
So according to Quake lore, the spawn were added in right at like the end of the game.
because they fucking bounce them.
No.
Do they explode as well, or did I make that one
They
up?
explode, yeah.
They do
Yes.
explode, don't they?
So if
Like,
you shoot them when you're too close, so they
Insults.
don't actually do very much damage when they touch you. But if they explode on you, they can kill you in one hit.
yeah, it's just dull, just boring design.
Hell of a defense mechanism. You wouldn't dare kill it. I only played the things that like came after Quake, like, and obviously like the like monster kill thing is still embedded in my head. Was that originally Quake Arena?
That's Unreal
That was
Tournament,
that was
isn't it?
Unreal.
Okay,
but
okay.
I mean, Unreal was just Quake, but with big open environments.
The interesting thing about Quake with the environments is when I started playing Quake, I jacked up my FOV to max, and I was
know
like,
you did.
this looks very wrong. What have I
Oh,
done
yeah,
to
I
the
saw that.
graphics? And then I jacked it down to something that I thought was sensible, and Catsman was like, no.
It was still, for reference, it was still like 140. That was like the minimum that he put it at.
Yeah.
I think 80 is like the minimum in the game, right? And like a cool 100's probably more sensible. I'm used to in games putting up the FOV to max because I want more like visual space when I'm playing an FPS to see things coming from my left or my right. You don't actually need that in Quake because it's all just tunnels. There's like no open areas in the original
There's
Quake
no
at
big
all.
wide open areas. There are kind of arena style areas.
They're very few in between.
But
though,
yeah,
in the original.
generally speaking, you come out into a room and you can already see where most of the enemies are. You don't have to be constantly turning around and looking to the side or behind you.
Yeah, although I found a really good setting towards the end of my playthrough of Quake,
Oh, God.
which is
Oh,
on
here
our
we fucking
YouTube
go.
channel if you wanted to watch it. There's a mode where you can look to the left and right as well as forward at all times. It looks really trippy when you're moving through a level because like the level just sort of streams past you on all sides. It's really weird.
Well, there was a guy who did like an actual project where he gave Quake a full 360 FOV.
Yeah,
That's almost
yeah,
what
that's
this was.
basically
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But you can see like what's behind you, above you, can't you? It's bad.
Yeah. But what is direct behind you is to the far left and right of the screen, and then like what's
Yeah.
behind you and above you stuff is like mapped onto the upper like top left and top right and bottom left and bottom right. It's
Yeah, this is exactly what I was playing on towards the end of my playthrough, Mike.
I could not imagine playing a video game like this.
It
It's
was really
confusing.
trippy, and there's some even cooler looking ones where like the walls just sort of bulge out towards you when you walk up to them. It's really quite fun to play like that, but it's completely unnecessary, really, to have anything more than
It's Quake
I guess
was
the standard field of view.
go on,
Something I
Happy
really
Man.
appreciate about Quake is how easy it is to pick up and play. There's like no buttons.
Yeah.
Like jump,
nothing
shoot,
non-standard,
and run
yeah.
around. Like I guess you do have the strafe, but
It consolidated a lot of the extraneous buttons from Doom down.
Yeah.
I definitely like it more than Doom, although it's not really my type of game. And no, just compared to like most 90s PC games are kind of a pain to get into. Like there's a lot to learn, and they typically don't explain it that well. But Quake was pretty good in that department.
I find that they're a lot of a pain in the ass to come back to. Like when I'm playing a 90s PC game like Deus Ex, and I take a little break from it, and I come back and I'm like, fuck, which button is it to interact with this particular object or bring up this particular menu, you know? But
Deus Ex is particularly awful for that, though.
But I think a lot of that to do with Quake isn't necessarily to do with the controls. It's just because id Software they did a very minimalist thing back then, and I respect that because I think Quake does one thing and only one thing, but it does it really well. There's no cutscenes, there's no vehicle sections, there's no puzzles.
There's literally nothing there. There's not even an entry to the game. It's not like in Doom, at least you got like you're on Phobos, moon of Mars. This thing's happened.
Didn't
Go.
tell you anything at the start of Doom though. It told
I
you something in
swear
the
it tells
middle,
you,
but
does it
there's
not in Doom?
there's no story explanation at the start of Doom. You just start. You're in like a hallway. There's a corpse. That's about it. That's all you need.
I thought in Doom it started you off with a bit of story and then you in the first level. Like
No.
maybe I just
I
read
remember.
it
Yeah, I
first.
remember from the like one day when I had a cold, I was playing the SNES version of Doom. Like in like 5th grade. Yeah, they start off with like a text crawl.
Yeah, I swear there's a text scroll. And
that
then
might be
you
in
start-
other versions, but it's not typically found in at least the versions of Doom that I've played.
Okay, but in Quake you get nothing. It's
You get
just like,
nothing.
you don't. It doesn't
And it's
even
like
make.
the end of the first campaign, you're like, oh, okay, I'm fighting like Cthulhu or something.
Yeah. Shub-Niggurath it is, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. It's a complete afterthought of a story. For those who know the history of Quake, it was going to be like a giant story-driven action RPG. But,
Really?
yes, it was. It was going to be based on id Software's D&D campaigns.
Interesting.
We were talking about this
Interesting.
yesterday. How many like early ass game studios like,
Yeah, all these
like just
90s
had really good D&D campaigns and decided to like make them into games and just switch a few names.
90s nerds, man. That's what they did. Like,
Yeah,
so many
fucking-
fantasy series have their origin as just some fucking guys playing D&D.
Thankfully, Michael Kirkbride did enough drugs to make the Elder Scrolls lore like actually interesting because it was just a direct like fucking D&D thing until it became like a weird hybrid of like Taoism and Hinduism.
I disagree on Elder Scrolls having good lore, but
You have to really dig for it. That's the actual game. The actual game is an ARG where you find the good story of the Elder Scrolls.
By reading books in libraries.
Yeah, by reading books in libraries and
I like
and
the
by
idea
not
of
playing games.
playing a game and going into a library in a game and reading like a novella length book. Like that genuinely appeals to me.
Well, yeah, no, and that's kind of what the actual thrust of the game was. Like, that was what the designers had in mind. Like, they were like, yeah, it was a big departure from Daggerfall. We didn't know it was gonna, like, sell so well because, essentially, it's a game about wandering around the world reading various mystical texts.
Back to
Quake,
though.
then. It has the best movement and weapons of any FPS I've ever played. I know, again, the weapons are minimalist, but every weapon feels great. And the movement feels great.
I'd agree on the movement. The weapons, I don't like how the weapons are all... Well, half the weapons are just upgrades of the first weapon you get that take more ammo. I find that a bit lazy and boring.
Other than a railgun, I don't see a weapon that you could add to Quake because it would be significantly different from what's there.
The stake gun from Painkiller.
Sniper.
I love the stake gun, but it is just flavor. You can't have a sniper in Quake because the maps don't go large enough,
Yeah,
really.
that's no point, really. I mean, a railgun would be welcome, I'll be
A
honest with you.
railgun would be lovely.
I think a railgun would be very welcome. I would disagree that all the weapons feel good. I will, however, give you that all of the weapons sound amazing, without exception.
The
think-
best
Oh, yeah,
one being
no,
the
like
grenade
they have-
launcher.
Clang, 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 clang.
I think Nine Inch Nails did some of the audio as well.
Yeah, well, even just the shotgun sound, like they give it like that extra oomph by like having it kind of clip a little bit. Like it's not just like, you know, the actual sound of a shotgun. Like it's overloading the thing that's recording it, so it sounds like really distorted and loud.
I really feel like weapons in modern FPS games have just gotten less crunchy, and I don't like it.
Yeah, well, no, like audio in general has kind of like people took that sort of model of like everything needs to be balanced and like you need to be able to hear everything clearly, and it just doesn't work, especially when you're trying to convey like kind of a sense of tension or like high violence. Like with Quake, the actual sort of way the sound kind of goes off is like, yeah, there may be some like ambient kind of stuff or like a little music or whatever, but then like fights are just punctuated by extremely loud noises happening at weird, uneven, like rhythmic intervals. It's not like you fire your gun and it's not even increasing the overall volume of the game where it's like scooped out in one part of the EQ.
Quake is very ambient, like as the music goes as well. It's all just sort of chanting and whispers and things, which kind of builds the atmosphere quite well.
I really like
From what I
some of the
remember.
droning music, and I
Yeah. There's this really good sound where when you kill one of the zombies as well, where they just kind of go...
oh yes, the gib sound.
Yeah.
It's a good sound.
And ogres make quite a distinctive noise. You can tell what anything is when
Yeah.
you hear it, which is...
I mean, that's the thing they carried over from Doom, but it's great. Again, why don't more modern games do that, where every enemy makes a distinct noise when they spot you? So even if that's the thing, even if the enemy setup is like not fair, even if when you go into a room you can't see all the enemies at once. It's not possible for one to sneak up on you because they are fucking loud.
Yeah.
I feel like the last FPS certainly that I played that did that was probably one of the Halo games.
Yeah,
The
Halo's
Halo
quite
follows
good
through
with
that
noises.
philosophy as
Yeah,
well,
they
where all
do
the enemies
kinda,
have different
don't they?
call-outs.
Yeah.
All of the weapons in Halo have specific sounds as
Yeah,
well, so
they
you can
do.
tell
Yeah.
what the enemy is wielding when it hits you.
I don't feel like that's necessarily a thing that isn't done anymore, because although there are lots of like modern FPSs where that is the case,
but
like
with a
high-profile
modern-
ones like Titanfall,
What's the word? Less stylized FPS. You do just get like
yeah,
that over and over.
Maybe Titanfall's a bad example of that because it's a sci-fi
Yeah.
running around.
Military
nice
shooter, it's all just going to sound like machine
Oh,
gun
yeah.
fire.
I don't know, like I played COD a lot when like Modern Warfare 2 and that kind of region, and when you play it enough, again this is one of those things, if you don't play the games, you'll just assume that they're all the same, but you play it enough, you get to learn what all the guns sound like.
That's actually a fair comment, because I could, if you play the sound of a Counter-Strike gun to me, back in the day I could have told you what gun it
Yeah.
was in a second. Now I probably could still
Like,
tell you what gun it
it's
is.
not just like necessarily the sound, it's the rhythm of the
Yes,
shooting,
yes.
it's the like it's not just the individual sound, it's the profile in its entirety. And I think it's a little unfair to criticize modern games for that. And they are actually very good at doing that.
I would say though there is, I guess, like recognition from a layman's standpoint.
Yeah,
like
this
where
is true.
something sounds immediately distinct to somebody who's never played the game before, as opposed to having to be exposed to a bunch of it.
Yeah, like if we go back to Halo, you can tell just from maybe an hour of playing Halo, I know that's the sound of a rocket launcher, that's the sound of a shotgun, that's the sound of an assault rifle, that's the sound of a plasma rifle, you know, they're all different. Whereas if you were playing Titanfall or Call of Duty, it'd be like, that's the sound of a machine gun, that's the sound of a pistol, but I don't know which one it is.
I feel like maybe that is a difference in how we play games now, because a lot of games are meant for extended times of playing multiplayer, whereas like the emphasis was more on the single player side of things. And Quake, obviously, does Quake have multiplayer? I'm assuming Quake has multiplayer.
Oh yeah, the Quake multiplayer is very well regarded, but it wasn't really fully developed at the time Quake came out. It came later.
It's a different style of approach, I guess, where you're looking at emphasizing different aspects of the game.
Coming back to sort of Quake's design, enemy design is interesting in Quake because there's a lot of enemies that attack you either with melee or range or a mixture of both. So the ogres are a good example of an enemy that they can attack you at long range, so you can't just sort of gimp them from afar, but you don't want to get too close, or they've got really powerful melee attacks. And there's like the Death Knights who can shoot lasers out of their hands at you, but also they come up to you and start swinging and things like that.
Fucking Death Knights and how much of a damage sponge they
Oh,
are.
so many enemies in the original Quake just take so many hits to kill, though, and it gets quite tedious for many of the enemies because it's just like, you're not doing any damage to me. I just have to waste a lot of bullets on you before I can progress. Please leave me alone.
I'm going to disagree with that because I think a lot of Quake's arenas and a lot of the places that you have encounters with enemies in Quake, the enemies always start in a certain place, and when you're moving around and shooting the enemy, you've really got to think about like where they're going and where they're going to be in a certain time. And if they had less health, they wouldn't have such a chance to, you know, move away from their spawn position, and you wouldn't really have to think about your positioning so much. So I do like the amount of health that enemies have in that game, except the Death Knight, which has too much health, and they
Yeah, it's
should
mostly
take away
the,
some of
I
its
think it's
health.
just the Death Knight and
it's
the
mostly
spawns.
the Death Knight. Yeah,
The spawns seem to have
The
ridiculous.
spawns also.
You're
I
just not
think
hitting them with
you
the
should be
spawns.
able to just get a spawn with like one good shot.
you can kill a
But-
spawn with one shot from the rocket launcher or grenade launcher,
But don't
other
use the
weapons,
rocket launcher in
because
the
you shoot
room with the
yourself.
spawn.
Again,
Yeah.
this is where I feel like a gun like the railgun, like a single shot but almost hit scanny,
Yeah,
single shot, really high strength.
a railgun would have done really
would
well
have
in
aided
Quake.
a lot with the spawns and making them less troublesome.
Yeah, true.
I don't think anyone played the Quake expansions, but one of them adds. It's like the nail gun, but all of the projectiles bounce off walls.
Oh,
You can
that's
fire
cool.
it around corners
Goody.
and stuff. It's really cool.
Can you hit yourself with your own projectiles?
Oh yes, of course.
Oh, goody.
Awful. I like that. I really like that about the grenade launcher in Quake as well, that you can bounce that off walls. So
It's really versatile, the grenade launcher. It's a
because
great
you know
weapon.
where enemies spawn as well, you can quite easily trick shot them to get a couple of hits in before they come around a corner at you and stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of games, like the grenade launcher, is just straight up worse than the rocket launcher. But in Quake, you've often got to think, like, if I use the rocket launcher here, I might die. But if I use the grenade launcher, I'll be
I can
fine.
bounce it off the wall, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like games of that era are a lot better at that. Unreal and Unreal Tournament and Quake both have very separated grenade launchers that work very well with each other. Like the flat cannon for the Unreal.
Yeah, and there's always like a risk-reward element to how you're using it as well.
Should we talk about levels then?
Yeah. Yes.
So the game's cut up into 4 different chapters, which were each designed by a different person, I think, Cats, is that right?
Episode 1 was mostly designed by Tim Willits, who is the only old school id person who still works there, and he's like the director of the new Dooms, I think. Episode 2 was by John Romero. Episode 3 was by American McGee, who you may remember for the fantastic games such as American McGee's Bad Day LA. And 4 was designed by Sandy Peterson, who is also the designer of the Call of Cthulhu board game. I don't know how he ended up at id, but he's very cool, and I like him.
He is cool. I didn't know he fucking worked on Quake.
Yeah, he worked
That's
on
crazy.
Quake and Doom 2. He made a lot of Doom 2's like weird gimmick levels. They're good levels.
Quake is like a really random mishmash of themes, though. Like it's got like I don't want to say Lovecraftian, but it's got a Lovecraftian elf god in it. At the end of the day.
It's evoking Lovecraft just because Sandy Peterson likes Lovecraft.
I mean, that's fair enough.
But if it didn't have that, I'm not sure what it would have.
I mean,
to be honest,
it's just so weird, and like the later games in this series are about this race of aliens that turn people into brainwashed cyborgs. And it's got fuck all to do with like Lovecraft or anything else like that.
Well, Quake 2 was originally going to be called something different, but they couldn't think of a name, so they just called it Quake 2.
Such a weird series in terms of,
But I think Quake 1 has a lot more personality. Like, it is grungy, but I've talked about this before, about like how Doom has a very 80s aesthetic. It's got a very sort of metal aesthetic. And I think that 10 years ago, that was all the rage, but I've kind of gotten tired of it now, whereas Quake's aesthetic, like 90s grunge, 9 Inch Nails, I'm not tired of that. So that made it feel a lot fresher, actually, when I went back and played it.
Oh, grunge is going to come back.
Recently, yeah. Oh, grunge is on the way back already.
I mean, the aesthetic is like still there.
It is. So, like, elements of it are definitely coming back, like, from, like, a musical standpoint, and I think the place it has to go is stoner metal. Like, it's not going to be, you know, history repeats itself. First is tragedy, then it's farce. So I think it's going to be grunge, but it's going to be grunge with like a tinge of like Thanos flat brim cap and like Monster Energy drink.
You know what? I'll
Like,
agree with that. It will be
that's going to be the thing.
Self-satirizing, yeah.
Yeah, like my the drummer in my band is in another band called Teen Mortgage, and it's just like a kind of like loud garage rock band with like some kind of grunge elements to it. But their art style is just, it's like, oh, it's got the slimy Goosebumps font for their name. and you know, it's like, oh yeah, one of their albums is just like, yeah, it's a cool dragon that like, I think it's like riding a bong or something. So I think that's going to be the thing. Like, it's not only going to be like dark and edgy, but it's going to have that weird, not truly self-satirizing necessarily aspect of it. Like,
but it's going to have like,
but it will be a great deal more ironic than like 90s grunge was.
Yeah, exactly. Which itself thought of itself as incredibly ironic and like sort of side-eyeing things within popular culture. Like, it very much was a kind of postmodern sort of thing, but like it wasn't as literal, I guess, as we are used to hearing and seeing things now.
Catsman, you like Chapter 4 of Quake the most, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
That's because he's a wrong'un.
But that's the one with all the spawns, and I hate them.
That's because I turned it to easy when I got to the level with 60 spawns in it.
Yeah. They kind of have a progression, the chapters, don't they? They sort of feel like they're lumped into a similar group, I guess because they were designed by similar people.
But each one gets, I think the design of each one gets kind of more complex than the last.
Yeah.
The first set of levels by Tim Willis, they kind of lead you in loops, so it's non-linear, but you end up back in a previous part of the level, and then you take a junction to get to a new part, and then...
Yeah.
John Romero's kind of have big hubs in them, So, like, you go into a building or into a fortress, there's a big open area in the middle, and then there are lots of, like, side areas that branch off that lead to keys and things.
Yeah.
The American McGee ones are very weird because they have, like, a tiny hub where you'll start in a room and there'll be 2 key doors, and you just go off in one direction, and it's, like, kind of a maze, and at the end you get teleported back.
I like McGee's levels. I like how they're kind of a bit puzzly because you're having to find a lot of buttons, and like you can kind of run through the levels quickly once you know where the buttons are and just slam them to like progress as fast as you can. I think there's a lot of good level design in most of the chapters of Quake where once you know where everything spawns, you can quite quickly run through, kill everything, and just progress. Because like levels I found I struggled on and were difficult, I would figure out where enemies were placed and therefore how to take them out quickly so I could get back to where I was before. So it's got a very speedrunny feel to it most of the
Quake
game.
was the original speedrun game, and the event Games Done Quick began as Quake Done Quick. That was its original name. Partly because it had a function in the menu that let you record demos of it.
That's cool. Does Quake have any of the like rocket jumping tech and stuff that you can go fast with?
It has the best rocket jumping in any id game. They toned it down in future games, but in Quake you can go ridiculously high with a rocket jump. I would actually recommend you check out a Quake speedrun because they're weirdly mesmeric.
And of course the engine was being used for fucking ever as well.
Titanfall runs on a modified Quake engine, right?
It runs on the Source engine, which was a modified Quake engine.
Yes, Titanfall is modified Source, which is modified Quake. Yeah. Call of Duty is just decades worth of alterations on top of Quake.
Yeah, I mean, even way back when it was still using the EXE was still the same EXE as the Quake 3 engine or whatever it was.
It's also interesting because in many ways the Quake engine was designed specifically to run on non-3D accelerated graphics cards.
Isn't it?
And it's one of the only true 3D FPS games that does. So actually, there had to be a lot of work done to make it run on modern 3D graphics hardware, because everything in that game, down to the map format, was designed specifically to minimize the amount of work that the CPU had to do tasks like working out which polygons had to be rendered and which didn't, or working out which polygons were in front of other polygons, because that was really hard for the CPU to do, and that's like one of the key aspects of why Quake, and to a lesser extent Doom, although it wasn't polygons, are able to run at all. John Carmack scares me. He does scare me.
What else do we want to say about Quake then, in terms of
it's
anything?
It's a bit brown.
Really? It's very brown.
It's a bit brown.
It's got a good palette of browns.
But that was subversive at the time.
I mean,
that
I understand
that was very much a reaction to things, and I feel like we are still kind of reacting to stuff like that today, and honestly going too far in the other direction.
I mean, we had a number of counter reactions, and then we had another reaction to those counter reactions, because we had Doom came out, and Doom was actually quite colourful as a game.
Doom was very colourful.
Quake comes out after that, and it makes everything brown. And I don't feel like it was necessarily followed that heavily, because there's a lot of other contemporary FPS games that don't go for the brown look.
So the brown with Quake was a technological limitation because it was running on 256 color graphics hardware. And if you have less colors, you can fit in more shades of those colors, so you can have better looking shadows. So games in the future very quickly went to 16-bit color and didn't have that, and so they became more colorful. But then, in like the 7th generation, what you had was there was no way to do screen space ambient occlusion early on, and so putting two colors next to one another, putting two very contrasting colors next to one another looked really bad, because if you put two really contrasting colors next to each other in real life, they will kind of bleed into each other as light from one bounces onto the other. But if you can't do that, it looks wrong and it looks weird. And the way you get around that is you reduce the overall contrast between the different colors.
Yeah, you use that post-processing to make everything look either blue or
everything
brown.
kind of blends into one another. And that means it looks better.
I assume Unreal Engine 3 was made with this in mind, and then until Unreal Engine 4, we didn't get an update for that, because all Unreal Engine games look brown as fuck.
No,
I mean,
because Mirror's Edge exists and proves that Unreal Engine 3 games can in fact look amazing.
Mirror's Edge doesn't have contrasting colours next to each other. It is flat colours that do not go anywhere near each other. Like, that's kind of the point of it.
Actually, you're both wrong. Well, I don't know, Moogle might have been right about what he said. The reason Mirror's Edge looks good is because it uses entirely pre-computed light maps.
Which is
and
good.
also just art design.
Also,
also art design,
the guy working on it, what was his name? Robert Briscoe. He's the same guy who did the DRS, the remake, but he's very talented. And it's basically all art design.
It eschews the shininess, because Unreal Engine 3 is very shiny.
Everyone in Unreal Engine 3
games is very shiny. Like, every
all
material
really
is
sweaty. Hello, sweaty Unreal Engine 3, man.
Oh, fuck sweaty. Let's talk Doom 3 and just get everybody coated in saran wrap.
Was that in Tech 4 or in Tech 3?
I don't remember. It was the one with the really impressive real-time lighting, but
it was like the first DirectX 9 game, period, wasn't it?
So the lighting was amazing, but all of the people looked like dummies, I seem to remember.
Yes,
I understand
no, they all looked like Laura Palmer because she was wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
Thanks for the Jack Nance impression.
Yeah,
hey,
you're welcome.
Specs, can I spend some points on you doing a Jack Nance impression?
I don't know who that is, but if you give me some time, I'll look up how to speak like him.
There was a fish.
There was
a
percolator.
Let's talk a bit about multiplayer. I've not played Quake multiplayer, but obviously it kind of started the FPS competitive genre, I'd say. Like, was there anything really before? Doom
started multiplayer, but
Quake was competitive.
But Quake was the first one that people played competitively. I mean, it's got a crazy skill ceiling because there are so many bugs in the movement system that you can exploit to go really fast and really high in the air.
What is it about bunny hopping? Is it just that you conserve momentum, or that you increase momentum by jumping repeatedly?
It's that the momentum cap that you have only applies when you're on the ground.
Right, okay.
And then there's
sense.
various other things you can do to gain speed. I think Quake has one of the ones about diagonals where you move faster in a diagonal. So you weave backwards and forwards like that. There's a few other things. I think... Is it one of those games where there's no movement cap for going backwards? It might not be, actually.
I don't think Quake does that, no. I think that's something with Half-Life, isn't it?
Half-Life 2, Half-Life is Quake, though, so...
Yeah. So it might be, I don't know.
I used to watch my stepdad play Quake when I were a little boy because he was big into competitive Quake, and I think the reason why I didn't find the massive FOVs to be odd when playing with them was possibly because I'd watched my stepdad play on big FOVs for multiplayer before while I was young. But yes, I've watched quite a bit of competitive Quake, and it's very different than shooters are nowadays, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the way that shooters are nowadays is a direct reaction to what Quake did and reversing a lot of what it does. So it focuses, modern games, I guess like Call of Duty and stuff, they focus a lot more on the ground game rather than jumping in the air and going real fast. There's a lot more hit scan than projectile these days.
So it's more about aiming than leading.
Yeah, I think so. And
also, of course, most modern games, FPS or otherwise, most of the competitive ones focus on teamwork and coordination with 5 versus 5,
absolutely.
whereas Quake typically is 1 versus 1.
Yeah.
So I seem to remember that someone found like some archived forum posts from the first developers of Counter-Strike, and pretty much everything on their development list is, we don't want this like Quake, we want it like this.
I've heard
it's the
this.
Reverse.
Yeah, and they said we don't want people to just be flying through the maps. We want people to have to actually walk places. We want everyone to be moving at the same speed. We don't want to have weapon drops and power-ups based on timers so that pros have an advantage because they can remember them all better than people who are just starting. Yeah. So that's why they made it so you could buy weapons. And they want it to be team-focused, obviously. And
we don't want consistent weapon spray mechanics. We want it to be like super random so that, it's very different. So guns don't exactly go where you point them. Very interesting to look at.
To use an analogy of another game, if you imagine like what Sakurai did from Melee's kind of competitive focus to Brawl, that's kind of where shooters have gone. And you see people trying to push back with like trying to make more competitive, well, not more competitive, but fast first-person shooters like this, and none of them tend to do very well, and I guess that's just not the audience of
Like
today.
Titanfall.
The reason
Titanfall.
is that there's a contingent of people out there quite large who are still playing Quake. And a lot of the modern, like, we're making a fast-paced FPS type games, they try and do that, but they also try and appease people who might not be too interested in that. And inevitably, all the people who love Quake just go, well, I'm just going to keep playing Quake.
So it is really just like Smash Bros. Melee, where the people playing it just go, well, you've made Smash 4, but it's not Melee. You've made Smash
you've
Ultimate,
made
but
Doom
it's not
4,
Melee.
but I just want to play Doom 2.
Yeah.
Last night on Quake, the boss fight with Shub-Niggurath is stupid.
It's very stupid. I had to look up how to beat
Just
it.
telefrag.
You fucking telefrag the final boss.
Who the fuck knows what telefragging is?
Well, I do, because I've played lots of those games, and, like, Catsman should, because he played lots of those games, but initially, like, back then, that was probably, like, the first telefrag that ever happened, right?
Yeah.
It's so... id Software do not know how to design a boss.
They don't, and that's abundantly clear, like, since forever. Like, they don't make interesting bosses, and they're either shoot the boss until it dies, or it's, like, here's weird gimmick, like, kill boss in one hit.
And, like, it wouldn't be so bad if, like, so that in the final boss, there's, like, an orb that floats around and occasionally goes through the boss. And there's a teleport, and it leads you to the location of the orb, but half the time it just dumps you into lava, so you have no idea. I feel like that could have been a puzzle. If you had gone into the boss room and been like, oh, an orb, I've seen those things before. I teleport to them.
They never show.
But they never show up in the game.
The orb actually specifically has the same model as an orb that is thrown by these little spider monster things. And those orbs are bullshit because they will follow you all the way around a level, and it is very difficult to get them to detonate against a wall or anything.
You just take a corner really tight and they detonate straight away.
They're annoying. I don't like them. But it looks the same as that. So you wouldn't think, oh, that's a thing I can teleport to. You'd think that's a thing that if I touch it, it will explode and kill me.
I feel like the solution to the problem is fine in terms of, like, teleporting into it, fine, whatever. You needed to turn it into a puzzle where, like, the orb starts as a static object and you teleport to the static object and it tells you that, yeah, you just teleported to the orb, fine, whatever. And then you have to, like, throw a series of switches after, like, some
you have to, like, make the orb
maneuver
go
the
somewhere.
orb into the middle of Shub-Niggurath.
Yeah.
And then you kill it. But, like, they just have it as a, here's the thing. Work out what to do. It's fine, whatever, but it's just not that interesting.
Very sad that we never really got another classic id Software game. This is the last one.
What about, like, Quake 2, Quake 3, Quake 4?
Most of the people who
kind of imploded
worked on Quake left after Quake 1.
It's weird that if you put Rockstar behavior type people into your development studio, they end up imploding like a rock band. It's weird that.
Yeah. At least we got Daikatana.
Yay! He really did make us his bitch.
It's pronounced at least we got a Necronox specs.
Oh yeah.
Please leave a comment about Gamer Girl Bathwater.
Yeah,
Gamer Girl P as well, that one too.
And we'll get him to read it in the Woodsman voice from Twin Peaks.
Yeah. We will be reading comments again from now on. Please suggest games for the Video Game Book Club. Our next game will be Liero, which was suggested to play.
Oh, yeah.
Liero,
We should have a
Someone
Liero match.
We'll play it, we'll stream it, we'll pop it on our YouTube channel, and then
I have
we'll
to
talk
practice
about
now.
Liero.
I don't want to get
sometime.
exposed.
Are
I've
you-
been bragging about
well,
my Liero
hold
player.
on.
Wooly, you
Happy
said
man.
you were the best Liero player in the world when
I
you
didn't
were
say I
playing
was
it in
the
high
best
school.
Liero
You
player in the world.
legitimately did say that while you
When?
were drunk at Animitch's house.
Yeah, I was drunk in Animish's house.
Happy Man's drunk confidence is legendary.
So
I
there's
used to
two
be pretty
problems.
fucking good, that's all I'm
There's-
saying.
there's
It's
two
so
problems with
legendary as
Happy
well
Man.
because he always loses and then he gets angry and stops playing.
I'm
true.
gonna beat the elephant building in WarioWare.
So, the problem with Happy Man is that he makes lots of claims when he's drunk and says that any claim made when he's drunk is not valid, but he's always drunk.
That's called mental health.
No, we don't do that.
that's a sane thing to do. Nobody's going to be Kanye West for you. You got to be Kanye West for yourself.
That's true.
This has been Ladies Brunch Club, one of the 2 podcasts that we, the Gentlemen's Lunchtime Association, produce. With me today, no, let's not do that this time. Goodbye, everyone. Leave us comments.
Farewell.
Check us out on Discord, that sort of
Buy
thing.
Gamer Girl bathwater.
Yeah.
Yep.
And drink it.
That's right. Rock me, baby. Baby. Rock me, baby. Baby. That's right. Baby, 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 baby.
Do you remember the Polar Express?
Yes.
Awful.
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts on that movie.
Tell me your thoughts on the Polar Express.
Okay, so this movie it kind of goes in line with sort of when Robert Zemeckis was sort of coming out of school. Like, he was probably immersed in a lot of the kind of psychosexual sort of storytelling, because in the movie you have a narrator explaining what the events. It's like, oh, blah blah blah, and it's Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is the narrator, but also you overhear the child's father's voice start like yelling in the background before he goes on his Polar Express adventure, and that voice is Tom Hanks as well. And so already, yes, you have the transition where the child is becoming his father over the course of the adventure, but then he gets on to the Polar Express. Who's the conductor played by? A mustachioed Tom Hanks, with doing the weird motion capture and all that stuff. Tom Hanks also plays this strange, Christmas hobo that tells him about, like, oh yeah, sometimes you got to break the rules and be really cool. Don't listen to the conductor. Awesome. And so he sneaks on to this car where, yeah, he's kind of wandering around like, what's all this? And it's like, these are the toys nobody gave a shit about. And then he's chided by another toy played by Tom Hanks that's telling him, oh, yeah, you don't really like Christmas. You suck. You forgot about us. And he runs away all scared and stuff. And, remembering kind of the hobo logic, when they finally get to the North Pole, he's sneaking around trying to get his Christmas present first, because you got to break the rules in order to be cool. You have to transgress this patriarchal figure who you become. And, he screws around, but ultimately, prodigal son returns, finds Santa Claus, and Santa's like, yeah, you fucked up, but like, that's not the real you, and you're gonna become the real you, which is me, your dad.
Oh,
because
I'm
Santa
confused.
Claus is also played by Tom Hanks, but just with his voice pitch shifted. So it's weird.
Is every
That's a
character in the
weird
film
way
Tom
to
Hanks?
get around only hiring one person, because Tom Hanks is a lot more expensive per hour than just some like local theater guy.
Yeah, but if you get Tom Hanks in, you get him for a whole day. You can have him record
no,
all the
you
dialogue
don't.
in the movie in one continuous session.
So, hold on. The child will eventually grow up to be Tom Hanks.
Yes.
That doesn't sound like a
And
bad
he's-
fate to me.
And is chided by and Tom Hanks is acting as both this lawgiver and also this kind of id telling him, like, no, break the rules, like Christmas is kind of lame, and there's a lot there.
Why would a toy say Christmas is lame? That's self-defeating. That's
Because-
ridiculous.
Well, no. That's the Christmas hobo. The toy
Oh, right, okay.
is going back, like, it's like hardline superego going, like, it's like, you're awful. You don't give a shit about Christmas. Like, it's purely there as like a punitive voice.
I have a question. Isn't Tom Hanks a Scientologist, so he doesn't believe in Christmas anyway?
Maybe that's why
Tom
they got
Hanks
him.
is
Tom
a
Hanks, man.
Scientologist.
You're thinking of Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Tom Cruise has a middle tooth. Did you know that?
What does that mean?
You look at him again, he's got a middle tooth.
Ooh.
I don't know. What, like between his two incisors?
No, Google Tom Cruise teeth, and what you'll find is that his teeth are perfectly symmetrical.
Snake, all of these species that went extinct showed signs of symmetry. Yeah, but no, that is a middle tooth. It's right there.
Yeah, he does have a middle
right
tooth.
there
That's weird.
under the what's the like middle part of your nose that lines up with the bridge
The
called?
septum.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. You're qualified to answer that question.
Yes, I am. I have a diploma in bodies.
He doesn't have a septum. Jesus, this guy's weird.